Welcome into a brand new edition of WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson, getting you set for your week's wrestling action. The team tournament coming up this week. Hard to believe it's here, and we're getting right into postseason action after just wrestling starting 1 month ago. And Jeff, we're going to talk a little bit later about the section team tournament coming up on Monday, followed by the WPIAL team tournament starting Wednesday, and then finished on Saturday. But a lot of changing part. I think still gonna be a lot of moving parts coming here between this time today and Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, there very well could be. We're already seeing some teams. Obviously, Hempfield was the first one to back out, opt out of the team portion of the postseason. Franklin Regional today announced that they're not going to be competing in the team postseason, and a lot of that is because of the fact that the individuals and the team postseasons are so close together. So, for example, today is the 7th of February. In 10 days, the individual postseason will start, and that way, if you would have to test positive, or if you would be around someone who's test positive and you have to quarantine for a certain period of time, you're within that 10-day limit, so you could potentially lose an entire team. And we kind of saw this coming with teams saying, you know what, we're not going to necessarily take the risk, especially when there's, in my opinion, a clear-cut favorite, right? So might as well get your kids ready and healthy for the individual season.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unless you're a team competing where you think you have a legitimate chance to be in the finals, I don't know if I really take that chance. Hempfield, I mean, I guess you could make the argument that they potentially could knock off maybe a Seneca Valley, even Franklin Regional for that matter. But I think you've seen enough from these teams to know that Waynesburg coming in as the heavy favorite, that there's really no reason to risk it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more teams make that same decision.
Just before we went live, I got a notification about District 11 and how their team tournament has been canceled. So the only two teams that are interested in wrestling in the District 11 team tournament were Notre Dame Green Pond in AA and Becca in AAA. So those are going to be the representatives for the postseason for the state tournament. So Nazareth's not even in it. Saucon Valley's not even in it. Easton, Nazareth, or Northampton, none of them are in it. So you're seeing this, and I think this is a snowball, right? Because I don't think the PIAA is going to actually host a team postseason tournament. I just don't see it happening, and if there is one, it's going to be a shell of what we are used to seeing. So I think people are just seeing the writing on the wall and saying, hey, you know what? It's safer for us to focus on the individual portion. These kids have worked so hard all season for how short it was, so I don't see them risking that. But it's kind of crazy to think because like you said, we're 1 day away from the WPIAL postseason starting with the teams, and I'm actually kind of surprised the WPIAL hasn't quite pulled the plug on it. To be honest, not that I'm saying they should, or I would advocate for that, but I'm just kind of surprised that they have pushed forward with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a part of it is they want to make sure it's fair. They just want to concede to saying Waynesburg and Burrell are your champions, and that's that. So I think there's that part of it. Unless everybody's willing to concede, I'm surprised a team like Nazareth would concede to Bethlehem Catholic. But I mean, that's just that's a little bit surprising to me. But it is what it is as we get set for an individual postseason, and we'll see. I mean, we got 24 hours before wrestling starts, so we'll see if more teams end up dropping, like you mentioned, Franklin Regional being the one today. Looking at this past week's wrestling results, not too much noteworthy as far as the matches go, but there was a big noteworthy tournament this past weekend. The Westmoreland County tournament still able to happen despite everything going on with COVID. And you were there, Jeff. What'd you think of the tournament?
Yeah, it was great. I got to work alongside Westmoreland Sports Network. We kind of worked in conjunction to bring coverage of the tournament to the viewers, and it was really cool. And Friday they had their own separate tournament. So they had the first four seeds. They had a seeding meeting, first four seeds. They got a bye into Saturday. So Friday you had the rest of the participants kind of battle it out, and that was really cool because you got to see wrestlers that could have went 0-2 in the tournament actually get to wrestle several matches, and then if you advanced on, you got to wrestle into Friday, so you got to join the rest of the four. So I thought that was really cool and really neat the way they set it up, because you got those middle of the tier wrestlers that got probably at least, I mean, at minimum four matches if they made it on to Saturday. So the setup was really neat. You got wrestlers in and out. There wasn't a lot of waiting. In fact, like we've seen throughout this year, is when you have an individual tournament, you have to be cognizant of the rest and recovery time rules that are put in place to make sure that there is enough time in between matches. So it was actually run. It was very smooth, quick, and Saturday went better than anticipated. We were out of there very quickly. So overall, it was really cool. They did a Parade of Champions thing. It was really nice to see. It felt a little bit, inching closer to normalcy, but it was still a long ways away from that. But overall, I thought it was great. There was a lot of good wrestling too. We were missing some teams, Norwind, Derry, two of the teams that were missing. So obviously a lot of names that we're used to seeing were not able to compete. But overall, great tournament, a lot of good competition, a lot of teams that we're going to be seeing here in the next couple days.
Well, we'll highlight the championship final results, and obviously they've placed out through 6. So, anyone else who you kind of noticed having a great tournament, we'll highlight that as well. Championship finals, 106 pounds. Cooper Hornack of Burrell won by major decision over Tyler Capusta, Franklin Regional, 9-0.
Yeah, and he was just absolutely dominant. I'm really excited to see how he is on the regional and state level, because I don't know if we've quite seen him tested to a certain degree outside of the WPIAL. I mean, they did wrestle up at Brookville and Chestnut Ridge, but I'm excited to see how he matches up with the rest of the folks in the Southwest and the state, because I really think the sky's the limit for him. Ty Capusta is undersized at 106, but still able to battle in. But I think this is just a testament to how good Hornack really is.
113, Vinny Kilkeary of Latrobe, a championship. He beats Troy Homan of Penn Trafford 4-0.
Yeah, and this match was closer than the score would indicate. It was 4-0. Vinny was able to escape, and in the third period, Vinny got 3 near fall points. And I'm not saying he caught Troy, but it was kind of a funky position that they were in. But that was a much closer match than I think a lot of people expected. I think Troy's really made a lot of adjustments and a lot of improvements since last year. So, look, he beat Joe Simone from Waynesburg pretty handedly, and Joe Simone was a guy who made it to the Powerade finals. Now, of course, Kilkeary was able to take care of business there, but I think both these guys are going to see each other a couple more times.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And definitely like the trajectory which Homan's going on right now to ready going into the postseason. 120 pounds, Ryan Klingensmith of Kiski, a 7-0 winner over Ethan Lieben of Hempfield.
Yeah, and that was a reversal, because those two wrestled at the Powerade tournament, and Klingensmith was majored. I believe it was majored. He got beat. Pretty, and it wasn't close. So for Klingensmith to come back here and win that match 7-0 was a huge turn of events for him. 120 in the WPIAL is kind of all over the map right now. You got a lot of different wrestlers that are trying to vie for that spot with a guy like Mac Church. Klingensmith, Lieben, you got Hayden Coy, but also you got Hunter Swedish, who just took a loss to Nick Jones from West Allegheny, Jacob Haupt, Dylan Coy from NA. You got all these guys that are kind of in that bunch, right, kind of bunched together. And Klingensmith made a real big statement by turning the tables on Ethan Lieben, who had a good tournament. He beat Nico Farah from Burrell in the semifinals 5-2. Klingensmith pinned Hayden Coy. He was up 2-0 at the time of that fall. So, I thought this was a very competitive bracket here, and Hayden Coy comes back to beat Nico Farah for third place. So overall, good bracket.
126 pounds, a matchup between state champions, and two guys who are very familiar with one another. Carter Dybert of Franklin Regional, Ethan Bergen of Hempfield, wrestled countless times, and Dybert comes out on top of this one with a 3-2 decision.
Yeah, and you know what? So they've wrestled in their careers, they've wrestled a total of 7 times now. So this is 7 times that they've wrestled in their careers. And all times Carter's won that match. So, I mean, talk about Ethan Bergen coming into here as the returning state champion, the #1 seed, but you've never beaten Carter Dybert. In fact, you've wrestled him 6 times in your career, and you've lost every time. This was a good match, and I'm excited to talk. We're going to have Carter Dybert on here in a few minutes, but, I'm excited to hear how much of a mental aspect came into this, because mentally, you lose to Dante Frenzy from Becca at the state tournament. Bergen goes on to win the state title. You take third.
in a way, you were pretty heavily favored to win. How much of that did it play into going into this finals? Because it's almost like revenge, but he hasn't lost to Bergen. He just won the state title, right? So it was kind of a weird dynamic here. But hats off to both of them. They made it the last match of the night because they're two state champions, 1 and 2 in the state. They wanted to make it a highlight match, and it really was. It lived up to it. Carter was in on his legs several times, wasn't able to finish. Bergnick did a great job of just pacing the match throughout. He looked solid throughout. I don't see him going away anytime soon. I don't see the distance getting any bigger, if that makes sense.
You mentioned at the Powerade, which was true. Bergen just didn't open up his offense enough, and had he opened up his offense, he could have won. Do you think he opened up a little bit more with Carter, or you still think he needs to open up more?
I think he was. I think for the most part he opened up. I think he opened up throughout the tournament. I thought he looked really good throughout the tournament prior to the finals. I got to see him several times, and I thought he looked really good. That match against Joey Fisher that we talked about. I don't think he took many offensive attempts, and in this match against Carter, I think he did. He had more pressure. He was fighting hands more. He was able to get to a few positions where he was close, but Carter's very good defensively, and his best defense is his offense. So I don't know if it's necessarily a testament to say Ethan didn't open up, but just Carter was able to kind of shut down his offense a little bit, if that makes sense.
Well, you mentioned we're going to get Carter Divert on the show to talk a little bit about his championship victory at 126 pounds.
One second, Greg. Calling him up now. There he is, Carter Divert. How are you doing, Carter?
What's going on? I'm great. How are you?
So obviously we want to talk to you about the Westmoreland County tournament. It was the featured match of the night. We had you versus Ethan Bergnick, a guy you are so familiar with. You've wrestled him 6 times prior to this. This was the 7th time. You had won every match before that, but he won the bracket that you were in at the state tournament. How much of that mentally weighed into this? Because it had to feel almost like a revenge type match for you.
Yeah. So I mean, we probably wrestled honestly more than 6 times. I know, and like counting like middle school and stuff. I mean, we've wrestled literally probably a dozen times. But yeah, I wouldn't really say revenge really. I would say yeah. I mean, it's interesting like that. Yeah, he ended up winning the state tournament last year, and props to him for winning that. But yeah, I would say I didn't really think of it. It's kind of like revenge. I more thought of it as just like another match that I just need to go out there and wrestle. And that was like a big thing, just like not letting not letting the hype kind of get there, just kind of just doing what I do and just wrestling.
And do you feel like you opened up your offense? I feel like you got to his legs a whole bunch. It was a tight score, but do you feel like you opened up and you were able to get to your attacks?
Yeah, I would say I did, but I'd say that there's definitely still room to improvement there. I know that's like one level that we're just gonna keep working on and keep working on. Just like keep opening that offense and keep pushing the pace all 6 minutes of the match. So yeah, I think I did a solid job there, but for sure room to improve.
And we saw you at True Power. You had a good match there against Cole Bisco, and now you're back to action. You're winning the Westmoreland tournament. You were a state champion as a sophomore, 3rd as a junior. Sum up your time here at Franklin Regional. Sum up your experiences and really, the ups and downs that you've gone through in the last 3.5 years.
Well, yeah, there's definitely a ton. I mean, yeah, this group of guys, I would say, like for sure this year, like the group of guys, like we're just kind of like, just feels like special. Like we have a really great team bond with each other, and like throughout the 3 years, and especially this year, like our room is just like we like build off each other. So like, say one guy's having like a down day, the rest of us try to like pick him up and like boom and get like a good practice in, or like whatever kind of like that. And especially through the pandemic, it let our team bond and team just kind of like strength together, like build a lot. So yeah, I would say that's like this year. And then it was cool like last year, year before, like I know like my sophomore year was a pretty cool year because we had 3 guys in the finals, me,
Right.
Finn, and Colton, which was awesome. And then Zach McCann also qualified. But yeah, that was like awesome. And like kind of as a freshman, you're just like really wide eyed. But I really think that Coach Matt Levy, Greg Sill, Coach Tim Florian like do an awesome job at kind of creating that bridge between kind of like middle school wrestling and high school wrestling, and they really have the practices as like a college level practice, which I think is awesome. And like they just care for you. Like there's just a lot of things that I feel that I've learned from them throughout these 3 years that are gonna carry. I'm gonna carry with myself through the next 4 years and probably through my whole life.
Yeah, you definitely have a great wrestling room, Carter, to be in with those coaches, an awesome staff to work with. You you look at your overall your success, right? Being a state champion as a sophomore, then you didn't get the finish you wanted last year, but then you commit to Arizona State. So exciting. So just kind of talk about your motivation and what you're looking forward to here in this season, because you have a great career obviously in front of you with Arizona State, but I'm sure you're kind of at the same time motivated and frustrated, like I should have been a state champ last year too. So I want to get back there this year.
Yeah, of course. I mean that's been last year, and I mean it's meant to be. So that's really what I believe is it was just meant to be. So I'm not gonna let that really drag me down anymore, and I'm just using that to motivate myself, especially through the whole quarantine and stuff like that. Something that kind of motivated me the whole time was just like gotta get back, get back on top of that podium, and it stunk. So like, I mean, losing that match like hurt. It hurt bad. I'm not gonna
Right.
sugarcoat it. I mean, it hurt obviously, but yeah, I think the bounce and the rebound is just gonna be what's really gonna matter in the end.
And it shows your character too, be able to come back for third place after taking such a tough loss when you were expecting to win, the title. Talk about your team for a second as well. I'm sure that's another thing that probably stinks right now is you guys not being able to participate in the team tournament, making that decision today. But your team, I thought overall in Franklin Regional just had a really great season. Really been able to put some things together and just, you talked a little bit about your 4 years, but your team this year has been really great.
Yeah. So yeah, it does stink that we're out, but I mean, really, we all just kind of came together, coaching staff, administration, the guys on the team. We all kind of came together and just felt that's what was best for all the individuals on the team. Whether it be your goal to make it out of the subsection to the sections, whether it be your goal to make it from the super region to states or to win a state title. We just felt that that would be the best decision and would create the most opportunities for our team.
No doubt. Well, hey, thanks a lot for joining us on the show today, Carter. It's always a joy to chat with you, and best of luck as you head into the postseason.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Carter. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Carter Dybert of Franklin Regional, kind enough to join us on WarUp on the WPIAL, and always a good kid, just a great kid, and phenomenal to talk to.
He's a great kid. It was a pleasure hosting him at True Power. He's a really good student athlete. He's just a good ambassador for the sport, and Arizona State's lucky they got a good one here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's go ahead and move back into the Westmoreland County tournament. 132 pounds, a big win for Briar Priest of Hempfield. He defeats Nate Roth of Latrobe 2-0.
Yeah, and that was the second time they've met this year. Priest was able to win the first time around, and Roth had a nice match in the semifinals with Dion Lyons from Valley. Man, he's a funky wrestler. This was the first time I really have seen him probably in a couple years, and he looked really good. He was a regional 7th place finisher last year, but Roth was able to beat him 10-6 and then, of course, set up that rematch with Priest. But, Briar Priest just continues to chip away. I like the way he's been wrestling this year. It still amazes me coming up from 106 to 132, and he's right in there, with the best of them. So I'm excited to see here in a couple weeks where he ends up.
138 pounds, Finn Solomon of Franklin Regional wins a title, a 3-1 winner over Lucas Capusta of Hempfield.
And we talked about Troy Homan and how many leaps that he's taken, I think, since last year. Lucas Capusta is probably right in that same boat with somebody who I feel has really jumped levels because, I don't know if he was obviously a big name coming out of junior high, but I don't think he's really hit his true potential quite yet. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of that. Finn Solomon was able to get the win, but Capusta pushed him, and I think that's a good sign for him moving forward.
145, Mario Sarnik of Franklin Regional, a Tech Fall winner over Nolan Dare of Hempfield in the finals.
Yeah, and this was an interesting weight class because Cody Kaufman from Greensburg-Salem was your top seed. He's up from 138. He's competing at 145 now. Mario Sarnik, who is a guy who was injured all last year, he was out the whole season, was a regional qualifier as a freshman. I kind of forgot that he was still around, and head coach Matt Levy was like, yeah, Mario Sarnik's, he's a tough dude. He was just out the entire year last year because he played football. Now he's back in the lineup, and man, he looks good. 17-4 in the quarterfinals. He beats Kaufman 6-2, and then gets a Tech Fall over a solid Dare from Hempfield area. So Sarnik is just another piece to that puzzle, and I was so impressed with Franklin Regional yesterday, and really Friday as well. They really came to wrestle. Matt Levy and his staff really got the entire team amped up, ready to go, and you saw performers who we're going to talk about in a little bit, Garrett Thompson, but Mario Sarnik, Carter Dybert, all throughout that just are wrestling very solid, and it's very impressive considering, how they kind of started the year, and maybe I would say a lot of it under the radar, and they're really wrestling well now.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I think in a normal year, they'd be making some noise in a team tournament. I think it's disappointing that they're not going to be able to wrestle, and I understand the decision, but I mean, they made some noise as far as in the Kiski duels, right? Bringing a couple of really big matches that we thought going into it they may not win, and now the strong performance of Westmoreland counties, they're peaking at the right time, and they're going to be wrestling very well here in individuals too. So definitely a team that has performed very well this season. And you mentioned Thompson at 152. I think he probably had the highlight win. Defeats Ty Linsenbigler of Hempfield 5-3 in overtime.
And that was a wild match, Greg. I don't know if you got to go back and watch that or not, but it was a great match. And Garrett Thompson, I think we're going to – I made sure a note of this because I knew we were going to talk about the finals a lot, but I don't want to gloss over the fact that he beat Jack Pletcher by fall up 5-0. I mean, he went out and beat a very good Jack Pletcher and made it look like it was nothing in the semifinals. I really think Garrett Thompson has grown into the weight at 152 and really finally at a weight where he looks mature, he looks comfortable, he looks just kind of comfortable on the mat. So I can't wait to talk to him because, man, he won the OW. He was the guy everyone was talking about. So, obviously he had that huge win over Ty Linsenbigler, a two-time state medalist. So, Thompson's a guy who he's not committed to college. If you're a college coach listening, he's a guy you probably want to call.
And it's in a loaded 152. We've been talking about it, all season long about how strong 152 is when you have the top 4 or 5 guys in the entire state of Pennsylvania, all within that super region and really all within the WPIAL. And you're going to have to throw Garrett Thompson in that mix with that big win over Ty Linsenbigler. And you mentioned we're going to go ahead and get Garrett on the phone and on to chat with him a little bit about his strong tournament.
Yeah, you mentioned it, man. Garrett is kind enough to join us. Let me pull him up on the screen here. Garrett, how are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We just got done talking to your teammate Carter, and obviously that was a huge match that he was in with state champ Ethan Bergnick. But you also had a huge match with Ty Linsenbigler, 152 pounds. Garrett, just talk to us a little bit about first that semifinals match with Jack Pletcher because, obviously a lot of the focus is on that finals match. But I thought you went out and wrestled Jack Pletcher like a madman. You went out, took him down, turned him, and then pinned him. Talk about that match.
Yeah, well, leading up to that match, I kind of try to keep the mindset the same for every match, no matter who I'm wrestling. So don't really try to get too involved into names or anything like that. But I just knew I needed to go out and get to my offense, my attacks, and dictate the pace of the match, and that'd carry me through. So my coaches were in my ear tell me I'm good and just push the pace, go out there and do my thing, and they see how good I wrestle and practice and in other places, and so I just went out there and did my thing.
And of course, in the finals, you had Ty Linsenbigler from Hempfield, who's a guy, at 52, probably going down to 45, but he's a two-time state medalist. He's going to Lock Haven, obviously one of the top guys in the state. And you came out and that was a war. I mean, you guys were just battling. How'd that feel to get that win and just to, persevere through that, because that was a long, grueling match for you.
Yeah, no, it felt really good to win that match. I mean, I told myself basically the same thing. Like I said before the Pletcher match, I just needed to go out, push the pace, get to my offense. That's what my coaches were telling me. And in between like periods or when there was a blood time, it really helped to see all the support like I had in the corner from all my coaches, all my teammates standing there cheering me on. So I had a lot of support coming out of the corner of the mat. So I think that really helped me persevere and just keep pushing and keep the pace up during the match.
And I can tell just by watching you interact with your team that you're a leader on that team. Guys look up to you. What you say matters. How's it's hard to believe it's been 4 years that you've been now at Franklin Regional, right? I can remember you were 120, 113 a while back, but here you are at 152. Just talk about the team and you kind of being a leader of that team.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really love the team I'm on, like right now. I think we're all super close and everyone gets along and kind of brings each other up. There's just like so much support, like in practices and matches. We're always out like watching each other and cheering each other on. So I think that just like overall helps the morale of the team and just brings everyone closer. It's just, I think it's a lot easier to like wrestle if you have a good solid like bond with your team. I think that helps a lot. So
Gary, you've had a fantastic start to the season. It's hard to believe we're really getting into the postseason, but you mentioned you don't really look at the names, and that's a fantastic mindset. I wish I myself, when I was wrestling, had that same mindset. But obviously 152, it's a loaded weight class. You got a lot of talented guys there. So what can you do, especially over the next couple of weeks in practice, to make sure you're ready to be able to take on those challenges?
I'd say just keep working hard in practice. We usually run through a pretty good, solid workout every day. So and then also on my own, getting extra workouts in off the mat, and staying strong, getting lifts in. So just doing everything right, having good nutrition, just everything good to compete.
And then you also Carter mentioned about the wrestling room and the coaches you guys have, just fantastic staff, Matt Leby, and the crew. Talk a little bit about the room and your coaches, and how they're going to be a big key factor in getting you ready for the postseason.
Yeah, I think our coaches do an awesome job. There's no other few people I'd rather have in my corner than my high school coaches. They always have like the best attitude going into practice. They're all they can tell like if people are dragging a little bit or not feeling good, and they're always super positive and try to bring everyone up. And they just try to have a lot of fun during practices, which is good. So there's always good spirits in the room, no matter what.
Garrett, I was before we brought you on, I had mentioned college choices, and you're not committed to college yet. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
I think of it almost like Mason Spears. Mason Spears is a guy who, it took him to his senior year to really start getting those phone calls and those letters from college coaches. And I feel like you have turned a lot of heads just in the last couple of weeks. Have you given any thought to college and what are your aspirations post high school?
No, I would love to wrestle in college. That's been a goal of mine ever since I was a little kid. So I'm definitely looking forward to continue my career somewhere 100%. So yeah, I'd love to wrestle in college.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to see you do that as well.
Well, Garrett, congratulations on winning a Westmoreland County title, and best of luck as you head into the postseason. And we look forward to seeing how the weeks unfold.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Garrett.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Garrett. Jeff, we look at the shortened season, you look at the condensed postseason, and you talked about Mason Spears not getting, making his decision until his senior year. I think there's going to be some college coaches that are going to miss out on a guy like Garrett Thompson because in a regular, normal season, in a normal postseason, he's going to be getting a lot more looks, a lot more phone calls, and although he's probably getting some of those, right? Don't get me wrong. I just think he's a guy who's going to probably he's not going to have as many opportunities as he potentially would in a normal season.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you're right. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it's been with COVID. Not only is there a dead period that's still in place, but you can't go on campus, right? You can't visit these schools that you've never seen before. It's tough, man. It's tough on both sides. It's tough for college coaches and programs, but it's also tough for these guys like Garrett Thompson that are trying to make a name for themselves. And it's almost like everyone's just in a holding pattern. Everyone's stopped. And it's guys like Garrett that are suffering from that. But hey, that's kind of our job is to get these names out there. And I can't tell you how many college coaches contact us and try to pick our brain about who's the the kids that to keep an eye out for. So I feel like it's our responsibility to kind of get those guys out there and get their resumes out there because like you said, there's a lot of good guys that just they're not maybe the top 10 or 15 ranked in the class of 2021, but man, there are a lot of hidden gems in there, that's for sure.
Oh, and you look at 152, right? I mean, if you're looking at purely just the state tournament, will we see Garrett Thompson because you have AHR, you have Rocco Welsh, you have Panero Johnson, you have Jared Kessler. He upsets one of those guys and gets in the state tournament. Absolutely, he's getting a lot of looks. But in a normal year, he's making the state tournament. This year, it could be tough because of that super region.
Yeah, I mean, heck, it would be tough in a normal year too, right? You got, I mean, with the WPIAL, Rocco,
3 of those guys, all
Ali, and then Jared Kessler. You throw him in there. Ty Linsenberger, who I believe is going down to 45, so that clears up a spot. But you got a lot of tough guys there, 52. So yeah, I mean, in a normal year, his chances would be obviously a lot better. But you throw in the super region, and man, you're right. But Garrett had a great weekend, so I think that's going to help him get prepared. And honestly, I look at Franklin Regional, and Carter kind of touched on this, that it was a team decision to not compete in the dual team tournament, which I'm completely fine with. Franklin Regional, yes, they're good, but everyone knows a healthy Waynesburg team is just, they're the team, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Waynesburg is that team. They beat the second best team, Seneca Valley, by 30 points, right? They're that good, right? You look at the risk, Mark Billett always says, is the juice worth a squeeze? And, I think you look at this, the dual team tournament the same way. Is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't know if it is for a team like Franklin Regional that has all these tough kids that are looking to advance through the individuals. So not to get off on a tangent, Greg, because I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But I just think it's important to note that these decisions are made based on reality and based on what's the best interest of those programs.
Well, and I think too, you look at the Kiski duels. The Kiski duels were essentially a WPIAL championship.
Yeah.
When you look at everybody was there, right?
Yeah.
You have Hempfield was there, Franklin Regional was there, Canamac was there, Kiski, Seneca Valley, Waynesburg. They all saw each other. So unless you're in that top 2, I mean, I can make the argument for the number 2 team going because you want to take that one shot, right? That one shot to be able to be a champion. But if you're not in the top 2 or you're not close to being in that top 2, yeah, I agree with you. I'm not competing.
Well, and also they're only taking the one team from the the WPIAL to the state tournament. So in a normal year, a Seneca Valley could come out as the runner-ups. They could potentially earn a state medal at Hershey, finishing 3 or 4. They could be the second best team in the state. We've seen this time and time again where a lot of districts have all district finals in the finals. Nazareth, Becca, Central Dauphin, Cumber Valley, Franklin Regional, Greater Latrobe. You've had these time and time again where 2 of the best teams in the state are from the best district. So it really hurts those teams that are those second and third level teams because they're not going to even have a chance to compete on that in the tournament that has not ever been scheduled, right? It's just sometime in the future. I just don't see a team tournament happening here, but I digress. Let's finish the Westmoreland County tournament.
Well, there was a big win at 160 pounds at the Westmoreland County tournament, and that was AJ Corrado of Burl. Knocks off Enzo Merlocki of Kiski 3-1 Merlocki with all the momentum coming from the Powerade title, but Corrado knocks him off.
Yeah, and I think that's a good test for Corrado because, we talked about how he was not able to compete in the Powerade tournament. He had a tight match with McCorkle from North Allegheny in the first tournament of the weekend or of the season. So Corrado needed this match to kind of test to see where he's at, training, weight cutting, all these different things that go into performing at a high level in a tournament like this. I think you need that. You need to have this tournament. So for him to come out and win this over Enzo Merlocki, who's hot, who's wrestling well right now, won the Powerade tournament. This was a good test for him. So I think both wrestlers learned a lot about where they need to be and what's been working for them. So it was a great finals match too. It was a good match, and I'm excited to see where each of these wrestlers end up because AJ Corrado right now is ranked number 1 in the state. So could he finally get that state title that I know he's been wanting for a very long time?
172, Sammy Starr of Kiski, a 4-0 winner over Noah Nibus of Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, and definitely a weight where you didn't have a ton of, like you said, Starr being a guy who's ranked in the state. Nibus is also a guy, but Colby Christie finished his third. Not a ton of depth here, but Sammy Starr continues to do what Sammy Starr does, and that's win big matches, goes out, has fun, scores points. But Nibus, he battled there with him, so it wasn't like he went over willingly. And Sammy Starr, wins his second Westmoreland County tournament title.
189, Braden Roskowski of Kiski, a 3-1 winner over Logan Hoffman of Bell Vernon.
And I look at this, and Hoffman really has made jumps. And Bell Vernon's a team where, we've seen them at Midwinter Mayhem, see them at Powerade, and Cole Waitman's always the guy who we hear a lot about. They don't have a full lineup, but you look at Hoffman. He was the 3rd seed, beat the 2nd seed, Corey Barrera of Latrobe. He beat him 5-2. And then that was a match with Roskowski. Hoffman was in that match. Again, 89 is one of those weights where there's a lot of horses in that race. There's a lot of guys, and we're unsure of what Max Stout's injuries are, so we're not sure if he's actually going to be able to compete in the postseason. You look at Justin Hart, Liam Volt-Kloss, Cooper Baxter, and you throw in guys like Roskowski and Hoffman. Now all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, where are we going to where the chip's going to land. And Hoffman, I thought, really looked good. So I think you got to consider him a threat, for that top 4.
I agree with you completely. He's wrestled very well this season, and you throw in those 89 mixes. I think Roskowski may have a slight edge over most of those guys, but everyone else, for the most part, I think they're all, any given week, can beat each other. And I think Hoffman's right there with the rest of them. It should be a fun weight.
Yeah.
215.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg. No, you ruined it. It's all right.
Whatever. 215 pounds, Dayton Pitzer of Mount Pleasant, a 6-4 winner over Cole Waitman of Bell Vernon.
And this was a good match here. And these two had wrestled earlier in the year at Midwinter Mayhem. And this was a good second match for Cole Waitman. He was in the match. Pitzer, I think, is just that, he has his number, right? Pitzer's an undersized 215 wrestler, probably not weighing much more than 200 right now, but he is just so savvy on the mat. He is, and I said this before, I'll say it again, he is a true victim of losing that 195 pound weight class, because he would just be unbelievable at 195. At 215, he gets guys that are strong, right? That may cut down to compete at that weight. So it's harder to do the things that he wants to do, but great win by him. Pitzer's, his return has looked good thus far. Despite the fact that he's lost to Feldman twice this year, there's no shame in that. That kid's college ready right now. So,
no doubt about it. 285 pounds, 2 of the top guys in the state wrestling. Again, Isaiah Vance defeating William McChesney of Greensburg Salem 1-0.
Yeah, these two come in ranked 2 and 3 in the state. Both were state medals last year. Vance was a state finalist last year. Nate Schoen of Sealands Grove, who's coming up from 220, is number 1 in the state there. But, Vance and McChesney, these guys always battling 1-0, 3-1, 3-2. So definitely not surprised whatsoever to see a 1-0 decision here. McChesney is right there, but Vance just seems to have his number right now.
You look at the team results, Franklin Regional, your winner, 189.5. Mount Pleasant, number 2 at 163. So, we talk about Hempfield, we talk about Burrell, but it was Franklin Regional as the top AAA team, Mount Pleasant as the top AA team. So when you look at the wrestling this upcoming week for the section, so we talked about a couple of teams already out. Hempfield out of Section 2, and they're not replacing them, which I think is a smart decision as well by WPIAL. If you drop out, then that's fine. You should have finished in the top 2 throughout the regular season. So
Yeah, I mean, I
teams that we're aware of that have dropped out.
Yeah, so Franklin Regional, Hempfield are the two big ones, but Plum, I found out today that Plum will be taking the spot of Franklin Regional in the Section 1 tournament. So so it kind of leads me a little confused because you say, well, why are you not replacing Hempfield, but you replace Franklin Regional with Plum, right? That's just, why would you do that?
Why would you?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure that out. Why, you have a lot more time to replace a team like Hempfield, but Plum replaces Franklin Regional. I just think it's kind of strange that they wouldn't. So, I mean, again, you look at the brackets and there's a couple matchups where you're saying, man, are the two best teams on the same side of the bracket? I look at Norwin and Connellsville, and that's a tough section there. And do you want to start with AAA or AA here?
Let's start with AAA. We'll get right into it. AAA Section 1 is going to be at Kiski. Penn Trafford taking on Kiski. Armstrong against Plum. So who you got, Jeff?
So, you look at Kiski, Penn Trafford, Armstrong and Plum. I'm going to take – now Kiski lost to Penn Trafford, but I'm going to take Kiski to win it and Armstrong to be in the finals against them. So you look at the bracket there. I think probably the two best teams are Franklin Regional.
They
are Kiski and Penn Trafford, but unfortunately they're on the same side of the bracket. Like I said, Penn Trafford has a win over Kiski, so there's that. But I think Kiski, fully healthy, is going to have. I think they're going to come out on top, and I think they're going to end up winning the Section 1 title here.
Section 2 may be the most competitive, although only 3 teams at the moment. Thomas Jefferson with the bye, Connellsville against Norwin.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one here, like we talked about earlier, because you look at where they are in the state rankings. Norwin comes in top 20. Thomas Jefferson, kind of a bubble team, and Connellsville had a great weekend. They are up at the State College duels. They beat State College, and State College is a really good program. So, I look at this and I'm thinking, well, these are three tough teams. So you can throw all 3 of these in a bag and shake them up, and I think you have different results every time. But I look at Norwin and Connellsville. That's the premier first round match of all the sections, in my opinion. I think the winner there is going to win the tournament. I think the winner of Norwin Connellsville ends up beating Thomas Jefferson, but I've been wrong many times, and I probably am going to be wrong again. But it just seems to me like this is probably the deepest section of the Class AAA. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. I mean, Thomas Jefferson, coming into it looking strong, but yeah, I mean, that's going to be. I think it's going to be 2 very good matches that you're going to see at Thomas Jefferson here on Monday night. Section 3 is going to be at Seneca Valley. Mars against Seneca, and Butler against North Allegheny.
Yeah, so this is another one where I'm looking at it and saying, okay, the 2 best teams here, Seneca Valley, North Allegheny. Seneca Valley may be without some guys. They are banged up a little bit, but I hope to see a full lineup for them. North Allegheny, you expect them to come out on the bottom, and I expect Seneca Valley to come out on top. I'll take Seneca Valley over North Allegheny. Seneca Valley, though, and they if they are banged up, they could succumb to a tough North Allegheny team. But let's not forget, Franklin Regional was able to beat North Allegheny. Seneca Valley beat Franklin Regional. I'm not saying there's transitive property there, but a full lineup of Seneca Valley is going to be a tough team to beat. That's for sure. So I think either one of these teams, North Allegheny or Seneca Valley, can make a push in the WPIAL tournament after the section tournament.
I would agree with you. I mean, we've been talking about both teams all season long. I think a fully healthy Seneca Valley is a clear-cut number 2, though. So I like them there and their chances, provided everyone, like you said, is healthy. Section 4 at Waynesburg, Mount Lebanon against Waynesburg, Cannon McMillan against Peters Township.
I think you're probably knowing what I'm going to say. I think this is going to be a Waynesburg Cannon Mac matchup in the finals here. Waynesburg over Mount Lebanon, Cannon Mac over PT. I do believe this is going to be a Wayne. And again, I think Waynesburg. I think you can probably start mailing the WPIAL title to Waynesburg. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but let's just be honest. A full healthy Waynesburg team. There's not just anyone that's going to be touching them. So I do believe Waynesburg, Cannon Mac. It'd be interesting to see if a guy like Costa Moore is back in the lineup for Cannon Mac and see if they can move some guys around to make it a little bit closer. But Waynesburg's they're that team, right? They're that team, and I believe that they are going to be the top team in the state for a reason. So Cannon Mac just happens to be in that same section with them.
Yeah, I mean, Cannon Mac was able to reverse a couple of the losses they had against Waynesburg at Powerade, but it's not going to be enough. And that's a match that Waynesburg didn't even have Luca Augustine wrestling in. So, yeah, no doubt about it. And Waynesburg should go in to Wednesday's action as the top seed. Seneca Valley, provided they win, will be the number 2, and I expect them to win. Everything else from there, 3 through 8, who really knows? But I think those two are going to be the 2 teams we're going to be talking about wrestling Saturday.
Yeah, and I think it depends on who comes out of that section 2, who comes out of Thomas Jefferson, Norwin, and Collinsville. I think that winner is in my opinion the clear number 3. So you have should Seneca Valley win. Now Seneca Valley loses to North Allegheny. Now we have a whole a bigger problem because you got Waynesburg. But I would say then maybe that North Allegheny, if they should beat Seneca Valley, could be 2, or maybe even that section 2 winner could be 2 as well. So I think it's either Waynesburg, Seneca Valley, and then Norwin / TJ / Collinsville, and then the 4th best team maybe Kiski if they should win. But you're right. There's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of scenarios where anything can happen. But they are going to seed it on Tuesday. So the matches will go on Monday. Tuesday will seed it. Wednesday we'll get right back into action with the WPIAL for both classes, AA and AAA, Greg.
And you look at AA, they'll have a 6-team tournament starting on Wednesday. The matches on Monday at Burgettstown. It'll be McGuffey at Burgettstown, Fort Cherry against Best Center. And in this one, I like Burgettstown a lot. They have just been blowing away teams in AA. I was really impressed with how they wrestled in the Powerade tournament. Best Center actually took care of business and beat McGuffey handily. So it's going to be a good matchup between Burgettstown and Best Center. But the thing is, Best Center gave up 3 forfeits in that match against McGuffey. Maybe they get all their guys back. Maybe they get a full lineup in. But if you don't have a full lineup against Burgettstown, I don't see how Best Center has a chance. I like Burgettstown to come out there with Best Center being number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the brackets, and I think clearly you like Best Center and Burgettstown, but I agree with you in the sense that if Best Center does not have a full lineup, Burgettstown is just they're just too tough, right? They have a solid crew of wrestlers. So if Best Center though, if Best Center has a full lineup, they have some guys back in. I think they give Burgettstown a pretty tough match. I think, almost like in Section 2 in AAA, I think Section 1 in AA is very tough because I think Burgettstown, Best Center are 2 very top teams outside of Burrell in the AA section. So, again, I'd be curious to see if Best Center is going to have a full lineup or not, because if not, Burgettstown may be that best team.
Section 2 is going to be at Laurel. It's Montour against Laurel, Freedom against Quaker Valley. And in this one, I like Laurel and Quaker Valley to be in the final against one another, and I'm going to take Laurel. I think Laurel's going to be the team that comes out ahead here in Section 2.
Yeah, again, a couple what-ifs here. Connor Redinger, if he's back in the lineup for Quaker Valley, he has competed. Freedom is on that bottom half. Laurel and Montour, hey, they've got some studs too. This one has a little bit. I would say Section 2. You don't have the Burrell team here. You have 4 teams that are very competitive. I agree with you. I think Laurel and Quaker Valley are probably going to end up getting to the finals, but and maybe it's just because I've seen Laurel more this year. I do believe that they're going to be the team to beat here, but I would never count out Quaker Valley, especially with Connor Redinger in the lineup, because those guys just, I don't know, they know how to wrestle, and they wrestle tough, and they're never an easy out. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing that both teams have their studs, right? I think the big thing for Laurel is they were able to fill a full lineup, and I think that's a big thing here in Section 2. Section 3, Mount Pleasant against Valley, Derry against Burrell. The wrestling action is at Valley. Here, I think it's Burrell and Mount Pleasant. They're going to be taking on each other, and you can't count it. I like Burrell here to win it.
All right, so Burrell wins it. Okay, is Mount Pleasant, are they competitive in this match? Because Burrell and Derry, at one time that would, at 1 year that could have been a WPIAL finals, but Mount Pleasant Valley has, I think, 4 or 5 wrestlers on the team. I don't think that's going to be much of a match, obviously, but Mount Pleasant and Burrell, you saw Mount Pleasant come off a very good Westmoreland County tournaments. Can they battle with Burrell? I mean, let's be serious. I mean, do they stand a shot there, Greg?
I think they stand a shot. Yeah, I think they're competitive. I don't think they're going to roll over by any means. I don't think it's going to be a 40 points difference between Burrell and Mount Pleasant. But I do at the end of the day, I don't think they have enough guns to be able to keep up with Burrell as far as a full 13 match. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be closer than some people may think. But I think Burrell wins that one. And I think it's going to come down to what's going to make it interesting, though, is the seeds. Because you have Burrell, you got 6 teams going into it, right? So you either want to be the 2, 3, or the 6 to stay away from Burrell up top. And I think the winner of Section 1 is going to be the number 2. So Burgestown Best Center, and I like Burgestown. But then who do you give the 3 to? Especially, we'll see. I guess it depends how close Mount Pleasant keeps it with Burrell. But I think Mount Pleasant's probably the 3. And I think, you're going to put Section 2. You could have a rematch of Section 2 again on Wednesday.
I think there's no doubt that Mount Pleasant is that third team, to be honest. I mean, I don't see how they're not. Just with how they've been wrestling this year. And you talk about how important it is, especially in Double A. If you can field a full lineup of 13 wrestlers, you're already in a lot better position than most of the teams. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of the situation, especially this year with COVID. So you look at Mount Pleasant, you look at Burrell. I like if Burgestown should win. I believe that they'll be the second, right? So Burrell, Burgestown, but I think Mount Pleasant is really the number 3 team here. I don't know. Maybe that's because I've seen them a whole lot, and I think they're really tough. But then maybe you have a Laurel team as that 4th seed, and I don't know. I think again, we talk about this every year. It's always Burrell and then next topic. It's always Burrell. Who else, right? So
yep.
I feel like this year is no different, right, Greg?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. And, I don't think, Burrell's not as deep as I think they have been in past years, but I think they have the studs. They have solid wrestlers at so many weight classes that, they're going to be tough to beat. And, I think Burgestown's still a little bit of a young team, right? I mean, they graduate a couple guys. They still have a couple guys who are there who are seniors. But at the end of the day, they still have some younger folks, stepping into big roles for them. And Mount Pleasant, they have their studs, but then, do they have enough juice behind the rest of those studs? So, I think it's going to be a great matchup between Burgestown and Mount Pleasant as well, going into it, and then, to try to dethrone Burrell. But, right now it's hard to say anyone's going to knock off Burrell.
Yeah, and, I hope that happens, right? I hope everything goes as planned for the WPIAL. I mean, obviously with a lot of teams backing out, and on the screen you'll see here the postseason schedule here. So obviously AAA and AA both wrestle on the 8th, which is tomorrow. You have the team section championships, and then Wednesday. So Tuesday they meet and they form their brackets. Wednesday will be the WPIAL tournament semifinals, essentially, right? And then the WPIAL championship will be on Saturday the 13th. What do you think the setup's going to be like? Because you got 4 teams that advance on to the sectional tournament, and then you have the 2 finals matches in the WPIAL championship. What do you think the time schedule will be like, Greg, for that Saturday on the 13th?
Well, before we get to that, let's first hear from Nick Fuller of Tactical Mind. Want to give him his credit where it's due for all the work he's doing for the wrestlers this upcoming season.
Absolutely.
This is the Tactical Mind, and I work with athletes in the field of sports psychology as a cognitive performance coach. Within 5 minutes of talking to a parent, they make the connection right away that this would be great for my kid to have when they're in college, when they're just going through the ups and downs of high school. Who wouldn't benefit from having more self-awareness? Who wouldn't benefit from having the ability to self-regulate our emotions and our counterproductive thoughts? Who wouldn't benefit from having more optimism, not just on the field, but in life?
All right, Greg. So we look at the team tournament and how that looks. We have the section tournament on the 8th. We have the team semifinals on the 10th, and then the championship finals on the 13th. If you look at the qualifiers, so two of the teams from each section advance on, and then you have the semifinals. You meet in the finals. That's it. So you have
quarterfinals, semifinals
Yeah.
on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm sorry, quarterfinals, semifinals, but they wrestle through the semifinals, and then you're only left with two teams. We don't have a schedule yet for Saturday. What do you expect the schedule to look like, Greg?
I mean, I would expect Wednesday to be a typical 6 and 7:30, just like we're seeing on on Monday night. Quarterfinals at 6, winners wrestling for a 7:30 semifinal, and then Saturday. It's hard to say. I would imagine though they would have both the AAA and the AA at the same site, just to make it easier. Not have to worry about finding two different sites. So I do think that'll be the case, and I would think they'll probably just be 2 hours apart. Whether it's a 12 and a 2 o'clock start or a 2 and a 4 o'clock start. I think that's probably what we're looking at come Saturday.
Yeah, I think there's a chance we could see that. It's tough to say with COVID if you are comfortable bringing in 4 teams and having it at the same school. But I agree, because a lot of schools they're not comfortable having hosting events. So it may be a struggle to find two locations to host it. But it's gonna be interesting, because again, what are you wrestling for here at this point? You're not really sure, because you don't even know if there's going to be a PIAA tournament, right? So that's the hardest thing, because you're just wrestling to hope that there is going to be a team tournament at the end of all this.
Do you expect more teams to drop but in the next 24 hours?
From the WPIAL tournament, probably not. Yep. I mean, here's what I could see happen. You win a section title and then you drop out. So I could see that. I could see people wrestling Monday, dropping out on Tuesday, and not competing on Wednesday, if that makes sense. So that's a scenario. I think you're either going to see teams drop today, which if you haven't already dropped by now, you're probably not going to. So you wrestle Monday, you win potentially a section title, and then you pack it in, and you don't wrestle Wednesday or Saturday. That's one scenario I could see happening. Do you agree, or do you think that's kind of far fetched?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I think you might be like, hey, I feel like I can win a section title. Like, let's say, we'll give an example, like say Best Center. Okay, they feel like they can compete, and then they wrestle. They beat Fort Cherry, then they drop a 20-point loss to Burgestown. Okay, you know what? I think it's time for us to just go ahead and not wrestle Wednesday. I could see that happening. I think, but the thing is, AA wrestles next Tuesday in individuals. AAA starts next Wednesday in individuals. So if there are any kind of exposures, I don't think if you wrestle Monday or Wednesday, I don't think it's going to matter at the point. You're going to be kind of stuck either way.
Yeah, I don't. If you're going to drop out, you should have dropped out today, prior to Monday, because like you said, that 10-day quarantine, if you have a wrestler test positive, or you have a family member who tests positive, and one of your big guns is out, now you're out to 10 days, but you're still going into the individual postseason in both AA and AAA. So really, if you're going to drop out, it would have made sense to do it on Sunday, like today, rather than Wednesday after winning or Tuesday after winning a section title on Monday, right? So I don't know. Maybe it's just if you want to hang a banner, right? If you want to hang a banner, I guess it makes sense. But if not, to protect your wrestlers, I don't know necessarily what's the rationale behind it. But hey, we're gonna muddle through it, man. It's not easy, but we're gonna try to get through it as best we can.
Yeah, and we'll recap it next week, and next week we'll also get you set for the individual tournament as well. As like we said, starts next week, which is it's gonna feel rushed. It's the next 2 weeks are just gonna be so busy with wrestling between the team and then the individual portion before we get into that every weekend rhythm. But should be interesting.
It is going to be rushed, man, and it's happening at a great time for me because I'm not going to be around probably a whole lot. So it's going to be hurry up and wait for me too.
That's right. For those who don't know, Jeff is expecting his first, so he's just waiting to see how much of this wrestling season he can actually get in.
This was the last thing on my schedule was Westmoreland County, so I'm not really sure if I'm allowed to schedule anything else. It's all tentative. So Vince Augustine, congratulations to Vince Augustine. He had a child born, a daughter born on Friday night going into Saturday. So crazy thing, because he wasn't able to coach. Obviously, he was on the bus, and then all of a sudden his wife goes into labor, and so I know how you're feeling right now. So I'm going to know how you're feeling right now. That's for sure.
That's right. Well, hey, congratulations to Vince, and also big thank you to Carter as well as Garrett for joining us on the show, and just thank you to everybody who's been watching us so far and listening in, and we look forward to bringing you the postseason recap, and it's here, postseason time already, so we're excited to see how it all shakes out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Greg.
All right. Thank everybody again. And again, everybody, hope you stay safe out there, and we look forward to recapping it next week. For Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in to